But I think there's just a lot of stress in the world, it feels like, especially here in the States. I feel like everybody's stressed out. Do you notice, is that something that you're noticing in you guys' field, or is that even something that you guys look at?
So I changed career actually around the time of the global financial crisis, and I went from being a psychiatrist in the National Health Service in the UK to becoming a stress expert and advisor for very senior leadership people in financial services. At that time, we were seeing a lot of high-profile suicides and heart attacks that were caused by stress, even if you weren't overweight or, had high blood pressure or smoked or something like that. So that was a time where a former psychiatrist kind of could really find a niche in a new career to help, highly stressed people. Then things seemed to sort of calm down a bit, but I think the new normal was just that we're kind of chronically stressed all the time. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So unprecedented levels of stress, health anxiety, actual illness, and potentially people dealing with death. So just took things to the next level and meant that all of us were more stressed than we should be all the time. And the brain is constantly monitoring out like our stress levels. There's a hormone called cortisol.
Yeah.
When that's high all the time, the body literally goes into survival mode. And I just feel like that's how so many of us, if not all of us, are at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like everybody's in survival mode. It feels like, why are we like this right now? What's going on? Is it really happening that people are more stressed, or is there just so much more awareness around it that we're also taking it on as like a placebo type of thing?
I really don't agree with the latter, because remember, I've been a psychiatrist for 7 years before I even started coaching in this field. So, there were reasons for people to be stressed and us to know about it for a long time. I think what's really changed, at the start of the pandemic, I actually predicted this was going to be a mental health crisis. I also said it could be an opportunity for some kind of spiritual revolution. And I think that's happening for some people who are deep into that are really kind of getting a lot out of it. But for most people, the pandemic happened, we came out of it and we thought, okay, everything will just go back to normal. But actually, everyone's social circle shrank. We're more lost, lonely, and disconnected than I think ever before in the history of humanity. I think the genders have become very polarized in a way that's not good for either gender. And I think that people are really struggling with what to do about that, and often doing exactly the opposite of what they should be doing. So using your devices more when actually you should be connecting with people face-to-face more, for example. Kind of also because of devices and, let's say dating apps, for example, just using people as pieces of garbage that you can get through really quickly instead of forming actual deep, meaningful relationships that could nurture both parties.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, say if you're looking on Amazon and you see different items, you're like, I don't want this one, not this one, maybe this one, let me read up on it. Nah, yes. And then you are looking on the same thing and it's people, it would make sense that you start to treat them the same way in a way without even realizing it, maybe, especially because of that, some of that phone access. What effects do we see when we're really stressed out that people may not notice? I had an experience years ago where I was extremely stressed. Some people I couldn't even talk to, some of my close friends, just because of the volume or the speed they communicated at. I was like, it's too much. I just couldn't handle it. I was so burnt out. And I thought, though, that I just wasn't working hard enough. That was my first thought. I was like, I got to do better. I'm not doing well enough. And that just burnt me even more. What's the best way to recognize when you're somebody that's at the brink, kind of, before you get there, I guess?
I always said that one of the most cruel aspects of any kind of mental health issue is that the first symptom is loss of insight. So that means that the first thing that happens to you is you actually lose the clarity that something is going wrong. So being aware is really important. And sometimes this will come from your friends and family saying, Theo, what's going on? Like, you're working like a maniac and you don't really seem well. Or it could come from if you've had previous experiences. So maybe if you ever got into that place again now, you might recognize it quicker because you've been through it before.
For sure.
And something like journaling can really help with that as well, for you to kind of have a tangible thing that you can read saying, I'm not sleeping well, and that's usually a sign that I'm getting burnt out, or, you know, I've withdrawn from my social circle. So
yeah, some kind of reflection of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you know what that is, I used to have in my journal a list of things to do when I'm stressed, because I would find that when I get to the point of realizing that I'm stressed, I don't really have the higher mental functions of working my way out of it. But now I don't need to look at that list. And it's very simple things. Talk to a friend, have a square of dark chocolate, take a nap, go for a walk, you know, nothing kind of too extreme. So once you've started doing those things a little bit, then it's obviously also important to address the cause of your stress. So if for you it was working excessive hours, then trying to do whatever you can to, you know, minimize that in the near future. Or if you possibly could, like, take a quick digital detox break over a long weekend or something, you might feel a lot better.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned is that if I just take 2 days of kind of, you know, drinking lemon water in the morning and just kind of, you know, slowing down and eating really clean, that it can make a big difference in just 2 days. If you say, you know, I can't take proper time off for 2 months, but I can do this 2 days, you might be able to reset yourself. And I try to share a lot of information about resetting your nervous system. So there are 2 modes we can be in, fright, flight, fight, or rest.
Is that 3 modes or no? Fright, flight, fight.
That's one of them.
That's one of the modes.
One mode, yeah.
Okay, that's one mode has 3 parts.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you get a shock, you want to run away, or you have to attack a predator kind of thing. And the other mode is rest and digest. And that's the nice feeling you get after you've had a nice meal and you just feel a bit lazy and really calm. And so we want to be in the rest and digest mode more of the time, but we tend to find that we're hypervigilant, like looking out for the next threat. And actually, if you were willing to share, I have some research to share about the way that you grew up in that kind of environment. So there's a lot of breathing exercises that you can do to move yourself into the restful state. For me, things like going for a long walk in nature really helps me to get into that state. So people have to identify what it is that for you can reset your nervous system really quickly.
But it's up to you. It's up to us, right? It's like, I think sometimes we're all looking for something to fix us, or a certain medicine or a certain tea or a certain, you know, we're looking for something to get the job done for us. But in the end, you really have to take control of it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned medication and I didn't even respond to that because to me, that's the absolute last resort. But I think culturally, the UK and the US are a little bit, you know, different on that.
Oh, yeah, we're pretty pilled up over here. We're like our pills, you know?
Yeah.
Does stress affect men and women the same?
This is a really interesting one. So there are different forms of stress. One is called adaptive stress, and it's actually a very healthy response to a short-term stressor like a deadline or a podcast interview or something. And then there's the chronic stress, which is bad for us because it starts to erode our immunity. It causes a lot of inflammation throughout the body. But the differences between men and women aren't with regard to those. It's with regard to how we respond to being in either of those situations. So men, and all of this is based on population norm studies, so it's most men and most women, but not all. Men are very good at reacting to a crisis and, you know, releasing all of that cortisol and adrenaline and fighting off the monster or whatever it is, but they have to rest afterwards. Women can actually find ways to recoup resilience during long periods of stress. So they'll still be dealing with the stressful thing, but at times they'll find, you know, whether it's speaking with a girlfriend or taking a bath or, you know, going for a walk in nature, they find ways to keep their resources topped up so they don't have that crash that like more men tend to have.
I wonder sometimes if a lot of like, because we have so many, everybody feels so stressed out and it seems like it's such a thing, you know? I wonder if sometimes I think like it used to be we had to literally like be weary of like a lion attacking us, you know? It was like really fight or flight. Like it was, but now that's not the case, right? But I wonder if that thing that was worried about everything out here just started to go inside of us because there wasn't anything else out here to fight really.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest threats to our safety now are psychological threats. So things like your partner leaving you, you losing your job, your friends not liking you anymore. Yeah,
the fears started to become internal as opposed to external. And I wonder if we're partially just in a phase of that, you know, like we're, evolve, it's almost like an evolution, because the lions now are the fears inside of us. Like you're saying, our partner leaving us, or us losing our ability to feed our families, or a goal that we have not working out or something, losing a job. Yeah.
Yeah. The things that you need to kind of keep your basic life on the road that it's on, and not lose the things that make you feel psychologically safe.